You know, they say there's no more dedicated fans than those of the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, they waited decades to get back to the big game. When he first got to the big game, it was 40 years ago, where literally, were it not for a bad first half against the 49ers at the Super Bowl, they would have won. They were behind 20-0, and he attempted a comeback, but it didn't pan out. But the Cincinnati Bengals are what they call the most underdog squad, I think, in NFL history, because all factors played against them, and the way the team was established and the way the team survived 2 decades of inferiority when they were called the Bungles after they got to their last Super Bowl against the 49ers, the Boomer Esiason years. To see Joe Burrow and the rest of his charges in the Super Bowl makes me feel great. So this podcast is not the complete history of the Cincinnati Bengals, but for you rabid fans and some of the new fans, a little bit of information on how the team started and the importance of that 1981-82 season to NFL history. I think it was the greatest playoffs ever in NFL history, in my personal opinion, because of the San Diego game against the Dolphins that went to overtime, the Dallas 49ers NFC Championship game, which is a classic, again, the Super Bowl, lost by the Bengals 26-21. But Ken Anderson that year was the straw that stirred the drink. He had the big victory in the 59 below in the AFC Championship against the Chargers. But again, we're going to talk about how the team started, and were it not for the stick-to-itiveness of the great Paul Brown, there would be no Cincinnati Bengals. Now, for a lot of people that don't know where the Bengals got their start, and there are a few out there because it might confuse people how they started. They didn't start as an NFL team. They started as an AFL team. Now, the Bengals currently compete in the NFL as in the AFC's North Division, one of the best divisions in all of sport. Now, the club's home games are held in downtown Cincinnati at Paul Brown Stadium. Now, former Cleveland Brown head coach Paul Brown, and the Browns were named after him, began planning for the creation of the Bengals franchise in '65, and Cincinnati City Council approved the construction of Riverfront in '66. Finally, in '67, the Bengals were founded when a group headed by Brown received franchise approval from the AFL on May 23rd, 1967. Now, they began playing the '68 season as the last ever AFL franchise. Now, Brown was the Bengals head coach from the inception to 1975. Now, after being dismissed as the Browns head coach by Art Modell, who had purchased a majority interest team in '61. In January '63, Brown had shown interest in establishing another NFL franchise in Ohio and looked at both Cincinnati and Columbus. He ultimately chose the former when a deal between the city, Hamilton County, and Major League Baseball Cincinnati Reds, who were seeking a replacement for the obsolete but beautiful Crosley Field, was struck that resulted in an agreement to build a multi-purpose stadium which could host both baseball and football games. Now, due to the merger of the AFL and the NFL, which was scheduled to take full effect in the 1970 season, Brown agreed to join the AFL as his 10th and final franchise. Now, the Bengals, like the other AFL teams, were assigned to the AFC following the merger, and of course, Baltimore crossed over later on. Now, Cincinnati was also selected because, like their neighbors the Reds, they could draw from several large neighboring cities, Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Dayton, and Springfield. Now, Ohio, of course, that are no more than 110 miles away from downtown Cincinnati, along with Indianapolis, until the Baltimore Colts really relocated there prior to the '84 campaign. Now, after Brown's death in '91, controlling interest in the team was inherited by his son, Mike Brown. In 2011, Brown purchased shares of the team owned by the estate of co-founder Austin and Knowlton, and is now the majority owner of the Bengals franchise. Now, when the Bengals first came in, they didn't have the beautiful togs they have now. They had a kind of Bengals on the helmet with the same color of the Browns color or similar to it. There's an old NFL photo, I think it's in the archives, showing all the different suggestions. Now, all it showed for years was Bengals on the side, but by the late 70s, early 80s, the current motif or style was in, and I think is one of the greatest jerseys in NFL history, in my personal opinion, because I like that stripe style. Now, before making it to the Super Bowl this year, he won the AFC Championship in 80, 81, and 88. Of course, he lost on the last key play of the game in 89, and again behind 20-0 against the 49ers, who he lost to in 89, lost 26-21. Again, the 90s and the 2000s were periods of great struggle. Unfortunately, the media, we used to call them the Bungles due to their struggles. Now, following the 1990 season, the team went 14 years without posting a winning record, nor qualifying to play in the NFL playoffs. What was kind of unique, ladies and gentlemen, with the 81 season, not only did they won their division, they won their first ever playoff game, a big win against the Buffalo Bills. Now, how it worked that year, Cincinnati put himself in great place in the AFC title hunt, because with their strong record, they allowed them a very high seed. Now, as it stood that year, Cincinnati ended up 12-4 that campaign with a 10-2 conference record, and they were very strong at the end. They won their last two games, scored a big 421 points that year, so they had very good offense. Now, this division at the time, ladies and gentlemen, not only had the Steelers, who were coming off multiple Super Bowls, the Houston Oilers were also strong in that era, and the Browns were okay, but they weren't, the Browns of later on, as we say, or before that as well. So, as the playoffs started, the wild card games, Giants had pushed on, defeating Philadelphia, while Buffalo won their wild card game against the Jets. Now, the game against Cincinnati, Buffalo that year was a 1-5, and let me tell you, it was a very well played contest. Now, I talked a little bit about the strength of Kenny Anderson. Now, in this game, the Bengals got off to a 14-0 lead, eventually won 28-21, and this contest was the first playoff win in team history, and it occurred at the end because Joe Ferguson, very underrated quarterback for the Bills, he had a fourth down pass which fell incomplete while attempting to drive for the tying touchdown. Now, the Bengals in this game, 55,000 fans, it was 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and what a difference a week makes. In the AFC title game, and probably one of the coldest days in Cincinnati history, 46,000 fans showed up for a 2 p.m. Start, and allegedly it was at one point, with the 35-mile-an-hour wind chill, it was minus 59. Now, the Bengals were coming off a dramatic victory against Miami the week before, possibly the greatest NFL playoff game of all time, when the Chargers had a big lead. Miami came back. San Diego eventually tied it, sent it overtime, and both kickers missed field goals before Ralph Bernurschke hit the key one for the 41-38 victory. Now, this game at the Riverfront, the Bengals again were a quick starting team. They led 10-0 after the first quarter, 17-7 at the half, and it was not much that Dan Fouts and that great, very talented West Coast offense. And as a lot of people know, Cincinnati perfected the West Coast offense in a no huddle, and Ken Anderson did everything he could that needed to be done that day. He threw for 161 yards and 2 touchdowns, and also rushed for 39 yards to lead his team to the win. Now, in the Super Bowl, again, the upset, the 49ers against Dallas in the 28-27 win on the Montana pass to Dwight Clark. In the Super Bowl, it was, again, 49ers the full half. They led 20-0, and again, despite a 14-point comeback in the final quarter, was not enough. Now, the idea with the Bengals, if Paul Brown wouldn't have stuck to his guns, Paul Brown, again, one of the most important developers and coach in pro football history, if he wouldn't have stuck to his guns. So you're looking at Joe Burrow and the rest of the young players on the Bengals. The spirit of Paul Brown, the commitment to excellence, the tremendous support of pro football rides in this team. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals are not the most popular team worldwide for the NFL, but boys, oh boys, were they popular back in the day, because the Bengals were the closest thing we had to kind of a CFL team in the NFL, because the Bengals were a hard-working squad. They had Antonio Munoz, good defense. Chris Collinsworth was quite young. They had a good receiving core, a good running core. But like I said, Montana was a team of destiny. But if the world would have turned, Dallas against Cincinnati would have probably been a better Super Bowl, in my personal opinion, because similar teams and similar offenses, and I think Danny White would have done better against the Bengals. But a lot of people believe that the 49ers-Cowboys game was the Super Bowl. You got to play the game, do it. I watched the Bengals against the 49ers that game, and this was the defense. This was before Roger Craig and all the big offense of the 49ers. Montana and the defense won it. There were some key plays, especially a goal line stand that the Bengals couldn't break through. And Ross had a good game as well. That their big receiver. So tomorrow, I hope that Cincinnati wins. It's going to be difficult for the gauge, because Joe Burrow could make history as being, again, the first number one, first Heisman, all the accolades. Will he be smoking a cigar at the end? I know that as a Dallas fan, when I see a player smoke a cigar, it brings back thoughts of Bob Lilly. When Bob Lilly did that after winning his first Super Bowl, I basically believe it will come down to the last three drives of the fourth quarter. It'll be like 24-24, 21-21. Don't underestimate the Rams, because I've seen them have great success against better teams this year. They're a very, very well-coached squad. But Burrow is like Montana. He can take the hit, he can take the sack, it'll come back. You give him a chance to win, and he's won at every level. There's no pressure on the Bengals. There's no pressure on the Rams. Whatever will be, will be. But I had a sense of sadness at the end of the 81-82 season, because that was the best series of NFL games I've ever seen. And I wasn't even a sports editor at the time. I was, leading into my last year of high school in Dalhousie, New Brunswick. I knew I wanted to be a sports reporter down the road. So I learned about great games and the winning and losing. But can you imagine in a playoff to have the Dallas 49er Classic, the Chargers-Dolphins Classic, this Classic with the Bengals and the Chargers? You had the game against Buffalo was quite good as well. And the two wildcard games were just tremendous as well, the old rivalries and stuff. So it's kind of weird how everything puts together, because in 2021-22, some of the best playoff games ever since that 81-82 season have occurred. The only bummer from 81-82, of course, was the big blowout of Tampa Bay when Dallas had scored 21 points in the third quarter to really put it out of place. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan listening to this, my God, we're glad you're back. All the luck to you. And I really, like I said, I can't call it, because like any title fight, Frazier Ali, I couldn't call it. Sometimes the best team wins, and sometimes the best moments win. If the Bengals can win 3 out of the 5 of the key plays of the game, they got the Super Bowl. And the thing is about this, from the mid-1960s when Paul Brown envisioned the Bengals to now, okay, that's almost as old as I am. I'm 56. Bengals hasn't been a concept 57, 58 years. I think if the Bengals win, this could be probably one of the greatest moments in Cincinnati sports history and in Ohio sports history. So from that perspective, I hope everything works out. And the LA Rams too, they've bitten bitter pills, like 1980 against the Steelers. They were leading late, and then Stalwart killed them. So I mean, it depends. But Joe Burrow, like I said, it's that Burrow factor. He does. You think you got him, and he comes back. He's not scared. He's like a young Montana. Montana took a lot of sacks back in the day. So it's going to be an exciting game. Don't forget, get your popcorn ready. Now, Terrell Owens didn't come up with that expression, by the way. That's a Canadian expression years ago, with what they call the TV popcorn. I don't know if the Canadians remember those that product. It was called TV popcorn, and you used to put it in a big pot and put the top of the pot and pop it over the stove. I kid you not, grease and popcorn. So get your TV popcorn ready. It's going to be great. So, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy a few pops tomorrow. Get your pizza out. Get hold your closest person, male or female or whatever. It's going to be interesting, except for Canada, because we don't see the Super Bowl commercials. They're blocked out. Thanks for listening. Bye.